Hello and welcome back. Today we go into a little bit more detail about reference. Now let's just review where we are so far. So last time we discussed the levels of semantic analysis. We said that there were three main levels: the word level, sentence level, and the utterance level of analysis. We said that our focus so far would be on the word level, or what we call lexical semantics, which is divided up into two branches: sense and reference. In this part of our e-lecture series, we're going to focus on reference. There are two main things we're going to talk about. One is general theories of reference. The second would be types of reference or markers of reference. So today let's start with the first part, theories of reference or general theories of reference. So under the general theories of reference, there are two major theories. The first is denotational theory. Now, the denotational theory suggests a direct relationship between linguistic expression, or what we call the word, and the object in the real world. In short, the denotational theory suggests that meaning equals denotation. And since denotation, if you recall from our last lecture, is the relationship between the linguistic expression and the object in the real world, therefore, meaning is the relationship between a word or a linguistic expression and the object that it denotes. So basically, this is what the denotational theory suggests. It's the linguistic expression and the object, and meaning would be denotation or the relationship that exists between these two. Here's another way to look at it. And if you notice something, this seems to be the bottom half of the semiotic triangle. So it's really missing the top portion of the triangle. But let's see, do we really need the top part of this triangle? Or would the denotational theory be on the right track in suggesting that it's just a direct relationship between word and object? So basically, the denotational theory says that semantics equals denotation. You understand the meaning of something because you know exactly what it denotes. For example, proper names denote individuals or people in the real world. Common nouns denote sets of things or objects in the world. Verbs denote actions. Okay? So this idea here is rooted in what we call formal semantics. Formal semantics now makes no commitment to psychological matters when it comes to meaning. Pure denotation is at the heart of formal semantics. But is this enough? Recall from our previous lecture that we mentioned that there are cases where a linguistic expression may refer but have nothing that it denotes in the real world. But yet we seem to understand these words. Again, recall the example unicorn. The linguistic expression unicorn has no actual object or referent in the real world, and so it denotes nothing. If meaning equals denotation, and if in this case the denotation amounts to zero or nothing, then it makes sense that meaning would also amount to zero or no meaning. And so according to this theory so far, in its simplest form, unicorn should have no meaning. We should not be able to understand the word unicorn. A simple solution to this problem is to suggest that expressions have what we call sense. And this sense determines the word's intended reference and what it can or can't denote. Now we're back to a familiar picture. This looks more like the semiotic triangle that we talked about in our last e-lecture. But now we are no longer under the umbrella of a pure denotational theory. Actually, now we're moving on to a second theory because we involved sense in the mix. This second theory is called the representational theory. Under the representational theory, the meaning equals the mental representation, or the sense of it, or the concept of the word that we have in our minds. So we understand a linguistic expression because we understand its sense. Meaning is the relationship between a word and the sense or the mental representation that we have in our minds. Like we said, this sense or mental representation is what determines which objects in the world the word can denote, and it determines which objects in the world can be examples of or instances of the concept we have in our mind. Like when we said the word dog and we have a mental representation of the word dog, and that would determine for us that a dog might have 4 legs, but a cat will not be a dog because there are certain differences between dog and cat that we know in our mind and that we have stored in our lexicon. So now let's try to sum up. Under the denotational theory, the linguistic expression or the word dog means its denotation, which is the actual object in the world. We said one of the problems was that sometimes there is no object in the world, like in the case of unicorn. In this case, the representational theory came about and found a solution, which was that dog actually means, instead of the object, it means the concept that we have in our minds, or what we call the sense. This sense now is what determines which objects in the world are instances or examples of the category dog, and it is what will determine what denotational relationships can and can't exist. Now in our next lecture, we're going to dissect exactly what this concept here is made out of. See you then.